Now, now, as you progressed and you, what did you think you were going to be doing? What did, if you had a prediction when you were younger, what was that? What did that look
When I was a
like?
little kid, I wanted to be an actress. That was
I can
my
see
goal. I
that.
wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be in front of somebody's camera. I wanted to be talking. I wanted to be a news anchor, a radio person, but I always wanted to be front and center, telling people what they should do and how they should think.
Oh, bossy.
I'm a bit bossy. I always like that though. I like being on the screen. I like theater. I'm a little dramatic. That was what I thought. And when I went to school, I planned on going and majoring in theater. And my parents were like, that's not even a real job. Yeah, no. You've got a kid, like you're wild. What are you doing? So I
So
majored in English.
what it sounds like is every time you refer to your parents and you talk about them, you have put them in a very positive light in terms of this conversation, which is cool. And but I'm also hearing you say that they were either they started off dealing, then they were addicted to drugs, but they still were there and supported. They still put values into you. They still put these things into you, but they struggled with their own trauma. And so like that their trauma that they had, and then the trauma that it probably created for you. What type of things did you go through because of that trauma? What trauma did it create for you? Because it seems like they really tried to do their best even though they struggled.
They totally did. And I think that I'm somebody's parent, right? And so I think that in my big grown age, I have a lot of grace now for my parents and for the fact that I think that parents do the best that they can. Having said that, my parents didn't do a very good job. You know what I mean? They did the best that they could, but they were traumatized and they had traumatic childhoods. So I witnessed a lot of domestic violence. My parents were abusive physically, verbally. They were absent sometimes we didn't have basic things like gas and electricity. We were impoverished. Once they used drugs, they were using drugs. We would, we owned our home, but my parents would fight physically. We would move out, we would go stay with somebody else, we would go back, just the constant struggles that people deal with when they're just surviving. Can you keep the RG&E on? RG&E in the wintertime in Rochester can be a mortgage on top of a mortgage. Just normal problems like that. We always had food, and I can't say the RG&E was off a lot. I think it happened one time. My house was never dirty, but my parents didn't have the capacity to parent. They did the thing. They knew very much like, you need to go to school. Go to school. They didn't know like getting to school, that is your problem. You're in kindergarten, it doesn't matter. I'm not driving. Getting home from school, that is your, you know what I mean? Like I remember when I was trying to go to college, I was doing the FAFSA and I was like, Mom, I don't know how to do this. She was like, so what? You're smart. I remember when I was getting my master's in social work saying, Mom, I think we've got some trauma. I think maybe we should go to a therapist. And she was like, you just got a master's degree. Therapize your own self. And I was like,
That's funny.
So
but you know what it says to me is it's still, and what I'm gathering from this whole thing is a choice, and you're choosing to have a positive perspective and outlook on this, regardless of the things that you've been through. And I think that's part of what makes the difference. Your outlook and your perspective, and for other people who might be going through trauma or have traumatic backgrounds, is making a choice not to let it ruin you or make it sour you or turn you into a victim. And you are choosing to use it in the form of strength and still see positive in it, still see the good things out of it, still see the glasses half full instead of half empty. And I think that's to be commended. But I think it also says a lot about your attitude and mentality, because I waited to ask you the question that I usually ask sooner is I wanted you to tell your gutter story. And I wanted to get to a point knowing some of your story to where you have, you tell it from the perspective of, and you can tell it any way you want to do it. I don't want to dictate your narrative, right? But what I found very interesting is the things that happened to you. See, for people who don't know, is that you you were a very prominent attorney, and became a judge rather quickly, and you were everywhere. Like everybody heard your name. Everybody knew, like, who is this Black and Hispanic girl who is now a judge, and she's young and like almost like the it girl. And then all of a sudden you had all of these issues, and you know, walk everybody through what happened and what you went through and what that was like.
Oh, geez. You know, I don't know. I probably have a lot less grace for this experience than I do for my parents.
But that's okay, because you know what? Because it shows that you're human, and you don't have to have grace here on this show. That's the good thing is you know, just you know, say what it is.
Well, so I was a district attorney, like I said, and I enjoyed doing that job to a degree until I didn't enjoy it anymore. So I stopped. I always knew that I wanted to do defense work. Always, always. I just feel more aligned with defendants. I feel like prosecution is based in slavery. I don't feel like it's really right. But I wanted to go to the DA's office to learn how to do trials. And because as a district attorney, you can make deals. When I didn't feel like I could make deals anymore, I left. I went into private practice. I loved private practice. And honestly, that was always my goal. I didn't always want to be a judge. A lot of people, my goal was always to have my own practice. But in private practice, I got really frustrated because I would think, okay, I have this client. I know this is the right way to handle this case. I know this is the right resolution. And I would go to the judge and the judge would say no. And I'd be pissed. Like, I'm right. You're not right. And I don't have the power to make you do what I want, because sometimes you can't win the case. You know, sometimes the facts are the facts and you just can't win. So I was like, I think I want to be a judge. And it came in the back of my mind and I was like, no, I don't like politics. I don't want to be bothered. Long story short, I kept having this feeling like God was telling me I was supposed to be a judge. And I'm like, this is crazy. I don't even, you know, I kept having this feeling. And a friend of mine ran for office and all of the judges' seats were full. And I was walking back from her swearing in and I started having this nagging feeling again, like, you're supposed to run. And I was like, right. There's not even a seat. There's not even a seat available for me to run for. Like, leave me alone. And a friend texted me, the legislature just created a 10th seat for judge. Are you ready, Your Honor? And that in that moment, literally, I was like, oh, I'm going to shut up. I guess I'm running for judge. I felt like it was something that God had ordained that I was supposed to do. And I don't normally feel like that.
No, absolutely. No, I was saying that I believe in those type of experiences. And I'm sure it was all meant to happen the way that it happened.
Which was really difficult for me later, because I was like, this was your plan, sir? Like, excuse me. But so I decided to run, and I was not the favorite. I was not the candidate. The Democrats did not care for me. And when I say the Democrats, I don't mean the people, I mean the party. I was not the fan favorite at all. And they told me not to run. They told me I was too young. They told me I was being arrogant to think that I could be a judge. They told me that the people didn't want me. And then they didn't choose me as the primary candidate. There were 3 of us, and there were 2, I say white men. One of the men refers to himself, I think, as Hispanic, but I think he would pick Hispanic white, but I don't know. I don't want to speak for anyone else. But there were 2 other people that were running, and they endorsed the white candidate, like literally a white male over me. The Democratic Party did. And I was heartbroken, but I had already decided at that point that I was going to be obedient. And so it didn't matter. I was running. And then I ran and I won by a landslide. I just crushed them in the primary. The people were very, very loudly in support of me. And it was one of the proudest moments of my entire life, not just because I won, but because I won when they said, nobody wants you. Like, literally the day of the election, before the polls opened, the news station broadcasted that I lost.
Really?
I lost with I think I got 2 votes, and the polls hadn't even opened yet, but they broadcasted it for 3 hours on their website that I had lost the election. People were calling me saying, how is it over? I was going to vote for you. Like, only in Rochester. You know what I mean? So I felt like, wow, you guys were so against me. It wasn't a neutral, may the best man win kind of thing. It was like, F you. And I killed you. I crushed you. I'm so young. I'm so arrogant. I'm so inexperienced. And the people spoke loudly, and I killed both of you.
Right. So Rochester's always been very corrupt, and corrupt politically in the educational system. And I'm sure that was by design that they did that. So you won, you became this judge. Then what?
Then when I got there, it felt more of the same. When I got there, I literally didn't have a chambers. There was no place physically, literally for me to be. I didn't have paper. I didn't have a computer. I didn't have pens. I didn't have any accessories. When they did give me an office, it was on the 5th floor, even though my secretary was on the 1st floor. I,
Jeez.
I had no support. I had no type of training. It was bad. It was uncomfortable. And my colleagues were loud about the fact that they did not pick me. They picked the other people that lost the election.
Crazy.
So it was a very awkward space. And then maybe I was on the bench for, I want to say I was on the bench for a month. And then my cousin was murdered. February 13th, 2015, I believe. No, 2014. No, 2015 is right. 2015, February 13th, 2015. My little cousin was shot in the head and murdered in Rochester. And I was just going into part 2. And I didn't have a lot of cases. And so I started taking off Mondays and Fridays. I just didn't schedule court. And when I say taking them off, that doesn't mean I didn't go to work, but I didn't schedule court on Mondays and Fridays to go help my family and prepare and whatever. And one of the judges literally went on the record while the media was present in court and said that I was stealing from the taxpayers, that I had been not reporting to work, that I didn't deserve my salary, that I was treating the job like a part-time job, and I was defrauding the county out of their money. Like, judges don't have time clocks. You know that, right?
Right.
Like, I don't know, in your position, you probably have to be at work significantly more than we do, but judges come and go as they please.
I don't have a time clock either where I'm at. You know, I'm the CEO here, so I kind of do what I need to. It just has to get done.
Right. But I figure you're probably there all day because it's like a school and kids, you know what I mean? But when my cases are done, I do what I want to do.
Well, when I was at a school, yeah.
I was.
You know, I'm not in the school anymore.
I didn't know that. I thought you were still there.
No, I've been back in Rochester for a while, but I run an organization called Charter Champions in Rochester that supports.
I thought you were doing both.
No, I'm not in Albany anymore, and I'm actually trying to open 2 schools, one in Rochester, one in Niagara Falls. And so
you told me that, but I thought you were doing both, and I thought you were gonna stop doing the other one once you open the new ones. I didn't know you were totally back. I was like, I saw you on a plane, of course.
No, I'm totally back, and you know, just been working to support these 25 charter schools, which is a full-time job, and trying to put more educators of color within the schools, and trying to make sure there's better pathways for them, and everything I can to support and create more equity due to the really a lack in funding and a lack of support for charter schools. So that's kind of what I'm doing. So no, I'm full time though. So
that's taking all your time. Good for you. I didn't realize. Yeah, I thought you were wearing 15 million different hats. That's what I told you. Every time I talk to you, you've picked up a new job.
Yeah, I'm a hustle man. I try to get it done, and you know, I just, and another thing that is in line with what you're saying, I try to do what God wants me to do. And so like, and I feel like God pushes me and moves me in certain directions. I try to go that way. And I try to go that route. And I know that you're following this, and for them and for those judges to say those things, you know, it's got to be hurtful and upsetting, because you were obviously working and doing other things behind the scenes that you needed to do. You just didn't have your trials that day. So then what ended up happening?
Well, yes, that's true. But even aside from that, you can look in an atmosphere and see, like, everybody knows that the judges go and do their calendar and do what they want to. That's how it works. Like, that's right. So it's crazy for you to single me out. What happened is ultimately nothing. I went to my supervisor. I just kept having a lot of issues at work. From the beginning, I kept having issues. I got talked to. One judge took all of my cases because they told me how to run my schedule. Like, it was constantly issues. And they told me, look, you're the new person. They're ragging on you because you basically say you're going to do whatever you want to. Just shut up. Tell them, yeah, you're right. I'll do it your way. And then do whatever you want to still. And honestly, I couldn't do it.
No, that's not you.
I couldn't do it. I'm like a little embarrassed to say it because they were not wrong. I should have just shut up and been like, what do you want me to do with my schedule? Oh, okay. Yes, massa. I'm going to go change my schedule right now to accommodate you.
No,
But
we're
instead,
fighting the injustice.
I was like, you're not the boss of me. I'm an elected official just like you. If you don't like my schedule, stop looking at it. And if you want to talk about it somewhere, we can fight.
And Rochester needs more of that because Rochester is a place where people let a lot of things that are wrong and bad go on, and they don't stand up for it. And it's crazy because what people do stand up for is a lot of like hood nonsense, is a lot of or a lot of the wrong things. And so it's an interesting, very, very dark place. That it's crazy the things that go on here because there's not enough of us standing up for what's right. So I know you. So flash forward to some of how long was it before the certain incidents happened and you ended up removing yourself or being removed from what you were doing?
I didn't remove my own self. I refused to remove.
I know.
But so I got sworn in, and my first day on the bench was January 1st, 2015.
Right.
That's why I had to remember. So January 1st, 2015 was my first day. February 13th, 2015, my cousin gets murdered. February 13, 2016, I get arrested for DWI at 7:00 in the morning on my way to the gym in Gates. There is a blizzard going on, as happens in Rochester. And I have arraignments that morning because I am the judge that happens to have arraignments in February. So even though it's a Saturday, I have to go to court. And I wake up and I'm in a pissy mood. My cousin got murdered today. Right. It's the anniversary of his death. Also, I'm divorced now. This is my first year being not married ever. Right. So I wake up around 7 and I'm already like in a shitty mood. And there is a class that has body pump at the YMCA, which is like a workout class. And I kind of leaned on working out when I was getting divorced. And when I started working out heavily, I lost a lot of weight. And that was like my crutch. I was like a crazy workout girl. I'm not now. Don't judge me. COVID happened, but then I was like super, super fit, and body pump was my favorite class. So I got up to go to body pump and there was a blizzard. It had started snowing Thursday and it essentially didn't stop until Tuesday. And I was driving to the Elm Grove YMCA, which I don't know. I don't know the
street from my house.
Okay. Yes. But you're going towards the airport. As I'm going towards the airport, my car kind of like gets all wobbly and it's a blizzard. I still don't know if I hit a rock, if the guy said he thinks my tire blew out. But whatever happens, I totally lose control of my car. I'm in the left lane because I'm not going to lie to you. I drive like a demon. I drive better in the snow, but I drive like I don't have any sense. I drive way too fast. I lose control of my vehicle. And I believe that I ultimately hit the median. While this is happening, I thought I just hit the rumble strips, but I get control of my vehicle. I pull over to the curb. I call a friend and I'm like, hey, I have a flat. You have to come get me. It's a blizzard. I'm not going to get out of my car because my car is like right next to traffic and it's a blizzard. People are going off the road and I have to go to court. So hurry up. Such a good friend. I don't know why anybody's friends with me, but I'm like, I have court at 9:30. I have to do arraignments. So I need you to get up immediately because it's a blizzard. It's going to take you forever. And I have on sweatpants and like a track jacket. We got a lot of stuff to do now.
Right.
They're like, all right, no worries. Here I come. So I'm just sitting in my car waiting. And a trooper comes up behind me. He doesn't pull me over because I'm pulled over. He comes up behind me, he turns his lights on. Now, I'm not even going to lie to you. I was like, oh, thank goodness. He can put his car over here. Then when my friend comes, he can move over. Like I'm literally already assigning the trooper how he's going to help me section my car off so they can fix my flats because I got to go to work. And that's all I'm thinking about. And so when the trooper comes up, I roll down my window. I roll down the passenger window because I'm familiar with the law where the troopers are supposed to go to the passenger side and you're supposed to change lanes. And I bring that up. It became an issue later. Like, why would the passenger window be down? But it's supposed to be down. So anyways, I roll down the window and he's like, were you in an accident? And I'm like, no, I have a flat because I haven't gotten out of my car. I never look at my car. I stay in it. He's like, well, get out of your car. I get out of the car and I look and the car has damage to the front of it. I'm like, oh shit, I must have actually hit the median. He's like, you didn't know? I'm like, no, I hit the rumble strips. So he goes, where are you going? And I said, well, I have to go to court now, but I was going to the gym. Again,
Right.
he took that to think that I was confused because I'm going the opposite direction of court, but I was going to the gym. My plans changed once I got this flat. So he says to me, he said I smelled fruity, and I was like, I put mango butter in my hair. Like, we had a very brief conversation, and I didn't have my ID on me. I didn't know where it was, and I said, I don't have my ID. I can give you my license number. I know it by heart. You can look it up. Now, all of these things are very typical for me, unfortunately. I speed.
Right.
I don't always carry my identification.
Right.
I'm pretty well known in Rochester. Most of the cops know me. This cop did not know me, but most of the cops know who I am, and they're familiar with my lack of responsibility as well. So it's not usually an issue.
All right. Right. So,
But so this particular cop, he said something to me about smelling fruity. He said, "Did you have anything to drink today?" And I was like, "No, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. Like, I don't get drunk at the ass crack of dawn." And
so for the record, there was no alcohol involved with this.
no, I had not had anything to drink. I was literally
Okay,
going
good.
to the gym.
Got
I had
you. Good.
nothing to drink that morning, which is part of why I was so incredibly angry, because not for nothing, if I would have been drunk, I don't care. Nobody cares about DWIs in real life. In Rochester, people get DWIs constantly all the time and nothing happens. They get a fine. So I wouldn't have to lie about it. You know what I mean? It's not like an offense that somebody cared about. Most of the judges and attorneys have DWIs. They just got off, or they got them and you don't even know. So it was really annoying to me that it was like this crime of the century. I'm like, you guys don't even give a shit about a DWI. But I was not drinking that morning, and that's why I was so mad. So the cop says to me, "Did you drink?" And I said, "No." Then he said, "Okay, I need you to come sit in my car because you don't have ID." And I said, "No." I said, "I'm not sitting in your car. I gave you my driver's license number. My car is disabled, so I can't leave. There's no threat of me pulling off. You don't have to worry. I'm not a flight risk. I'm not getting in your car. I'll get back in my car." And at this point, I felt uncomfortable. My phone was in my car. I didn't have the ability to communicate with anyone. And I went to get back in my car, and he said, "You're under arrest." He put his hand on my door, and I said, "I'm not under arrest. I'm under arrest for what?" Now I'm getting an attitude, if I'm honest. And he said, "You can either get in my car and be under arrest, or you'll get a resisting arrest in addition to that." And I said, "I'm under arrest for what?" And he said, "DWI. I said, "You literally didn't do one field sobriety test. You have no probable cause. You have no basis, no reasonable suspicion. You didn't see me driving a vehicle at all. You have no basis to arrest me for DWI. You can't ask me to do any field sobriety test now because you can't develop probable cause after an arrest. So you're saying I'm under arrest for DWI and I've done nothing. You don't even know what the hell you're doing. Can you call somebody who actually knows what they're doing?" So that was, honestly, again, in retrospect, not maybe the best idea, right? I don't have any identification. I haven't told anyone I'm a judge. I have on yoga pants and a t-shirt. I literally just rolled out of bed. I'm driving a 2008 Hyundai Veracruz. And it has body damage all around it because I've hit my house. My 17-year-old drives it. Like, it's destroyed. I don't look like anybody's judge. And now I've gotten out of the car and I've told the trooper that he doesn't know the law and that I know more than he does. And I look like some ghetto, ignorant Black girl as far as he's concerned. And he is pissed. He is super pissed. He gets an attitude again. He threatens to charge me with resisting arrest. And I'm like, you know what? I know the law. I know that this isn't sufficient probable cause for a DWI. I don't have to act irate. Get in his car. Just, this is going to work out. He's going to get in his car, try to be compliant, appease him. I got in his car. I continued to talk to him. I asked him to allow me to do field sobriety test. I did the alphabet test. I did the counting test. Wow, I think I finally I had to say, I think, F to T without singing and without stopping, backwards and forwards. And I had to count backwards and forwards. And I did both, and I passed. And I was like, all right, can we stop doing this now? So I changed, right? I got done being mad and I tried to persuade him. I'm like, okay, now you see you've made a mistake. Stop before this goes too far. Then my friend that I had called came, and he happened to be an attorney. And when my friend got there, he was like, she's a judge, right? And the guy was like, no. And he was like, yeah, you really fucked up. Like, she's not drunk. She's mad. And she's a judge, and you didn't have any basis to arrest her. Like, this is not going to go well. And I say all of that to say that, it did go well. I got
Right.
arrested and I had a trial, and I blame myself again because I had a bench trial and I shouldn't have. I had way too much faith in the system that had been screwing me, and I already knew it would screw me. But I thought people hate judges. And that I thought that I knew there wasn't enough for a conviction, so I didn't have a jury trial, and I think I'll regret that for the rest of my life.
So for
Um,
clarification, the bench trial is when a judge can decide the fate of guilty or innocence versus the jury deciding it. Is that accurate?
Yes. And in my case, I would have had a jury of 6 of my peers, and I could have had an all city jury. So it would have been only city residents who got to judge me. And I really, really wanted to do that. But my attorney was adamant that there was absolutely no way the judge would convict me, because there wasn't sufficient evidence. And I knew as an attorney that there wasn't sufficient evidence. So I already
Right.
felt confident about that.
Mm.
Um, and I didn't feel like I could trust myself in terms of making decisions like, should I trust the judge or the jury? Because I knew I was very emotional. I hired
Right.
an attorney because I knew that I couldn't necessarily think about the law properly, but it was very difficult because I wanted to handle my case myself. I didn't feel like anybody could possibly be as invested as me. You know what I mean? And I had a lot of conflict with my attorney in the underlying DWI. But we had a hearing, and I didn't think the hearing went well. And I was like, the judge essentially called me a racist. Um, and he did. And I was like, I don't think a bench trial is the right choice. But when we had the trial, again, it went really, really well. And I was like, there's absolutely no way. There's the ability to ask for a lesser included. So what that means is they read DWI, and the judge can also consider, well, maybe you weren't actually drunk, maybe you were just impaired. And I didn't ask for impaired because I was confident that I wasn't intoxicated.
Right.
And from the beginning, they had offered me impaired, and I refused. I was like, no, sorry, I'm not taking it. I didn't do it. I'm not going to plead guilty to something I didn't do. Um, but the judge came back with a DWI almost immediately. And essentially, he said that I cursed, and I did curse. I cursed the trooper completely out once he really arrested me.
Right.
Cursed him out, up and down. I was like, you're ruining my fucking life for no reason, just because I got you angry and you didn't want to be told to, put in your place by a Black woman. I cursed him out up and down. And essentially the judge said that he didn't think that that's the way judges spoke. And he couldn't find any reason but for intoxication that I would have spoken to a police officer that way.
Right.